Today I'm going to be sharing with you the Scottish books that I'm reading this spring. I have a whole range of different genres, so I'm sure there will be something that you find interesting, or at the very least that this video will help you to relax for a few minutes. The first book you will definitely already know and have heard of. It is a very beloved children's classic, and that is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. So J.M. Barrie was from Dumfries, I believe, which is kind of around about the borders of Scotland, and many of the scenes in Peter Pan are based on the Scottish countryside in that part of Scotland. I have never actually read it before, but I love the Disney movie, and I also have a friend who is absolutely obsessed with it and keeps telling me to read it, so I think it will be wonderful to escape away to Neverland for a few hours. Number 2 is not a fantasy, but I think it kind of could be classed as an adventure, and that is Emily of New Moon by Ellen Montgomery. Now, Ellen Montgomery, of course, is the author of Anne of Green Gables, which is her most famous. Even though it's set, I believe, in Canada, I think I would describe it as a Scottish diaspora kind of novel, because the Scottish heritage is very strongly imbued throughout it, from what I gather. Emily, sadly, tragedy comes upon her life. She is sent to live with the Scottish clan out in the beautiful countryside, and so far, as you can see, I have started to read it, and so far it is wonderful. It is so heartwarming. The first few pages are set in spring and have these these lines that just give me chills and that I so relate to and find so beautiful that I just have to read it actually. It always seemed to Emily, ever since she could remember, that she was very, very near to a world of wonderful beauty. Between it and herself hung only a thin curtain. She could never draw the curtain aside, but sometimes, just for a moment, a wind fluttered it, and then it was as if she caught a glimpse of the enchanting realm beyond, only a glimpse, and heard a note of unearthly music. It's gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to continuing reading this. For romance, I have A Secret Scottish Escape by Julie Shackman. I read another one of her books in another season and found it to just be very light-hearted and feel good. Nothing fancy or heavy like some of the other items on my list. And I think that you just really need that, especially coming out of winter and into the springtime. I don't know about you, but I love to have at least a few books smattered in there that are just for pure pleasure and enjoyment, so I think that this will be just that. The next book is Love on the Scottish Spring Isle by Beatrice Bradshaw. I could not remember for a moment there. And that I think will be quite similar to the other one. It's the kind of deal of girl needs a fresh start, and so she goes off to the Scottish countryside or a Scottish island, and she just wants to get away from everything, but then she bumps into a handsome stranger. It's just one of those predictable, wholesome, feel-good plots that you can read in an afternoon and just escape for a little while. Next up, I've got a couple of kind of contemporary Scottish literature books. One is quite famous. It is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and I don't know why it's taken me so long to get round to reading it, because it's one of these books that seems to be constantly recommended on almost every Scottish reading list and even on many non-Scottish reading lists that I've seen. But it's about a young woman. I think she's maybe got autism. I'm not sure, I've not read it yet, so I don't know for sure. But she lives a very kind of predictable everyday life, but somehow there's maybe like an emptiness there, I think. And I think it's kind of how she navigates this. I think this is very relevant just for human living. You know, so many of us can fall into going through the motions without fully living and embracing a truly joyful, wonderful life that we feel like we're destined for, but it sometimes feels out of our reach. Next up, very fitting for spring, is Spring by Ali Smith. I actually just finished this the other day and I quite liked it. I liked it more than I expected to like it. It is one of these contemporary pieces of literature that you read a lot of rave reviews about, and then you read the first couple of pages and you feel kind of dumb because you don't really get it. I didn't really like the first couple of chapters very much. They just weren't my cup of tea, but it is kind of explained this slightly interesting style they're written in later on, and that makes everything make a lot more sense. It is more character driven than story driven. It explores a lot of political issues. It was written in a very short period of time, shortly after the Brexit vote was cast, I believe. And so a lot of the issues explored in here are to do with immigration and place in society, and what does that really mean. One of the main characters has recently lost his best friend to cancer, so it also explores the themes of grief. Definitely very different to the kind of thing I normally read, and definitely not an escapism novel at all. But it was good. I liked it. For historical fiction, one of the first books on my list is Poor Things by Alistair Gray, which may be familiar to you as recently the movie Poor Things has come out. In the movie, it's set in London, Victorian London. In the original book, it is set in Glasgow and follows the story of a kind of female Frankenstein type situation, I guess. I have seen the movie. I loved some parts of it and absolutely hated other parts of it, so I have no idea how I'm going to take the book or how the book is different from the movie. We shall see. However, it is a classic, so I am interested to read it. On the theme of Frankenstein, we have a kind of Frankenstein meets Loch Ness Monster type situation, and that is Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. It is about a paleontologist wife and her husband who want to make some kind of a great discovery that is going to take the scientific world by storm. So rather than just recreating the fossilized remains and bone structures of dinosaurs, they decide that they want to try and actually create and bring a dinosaur to life. So it's a kind of like potential Loch Ness Monster origin story. The final historical fiction book, which I haven't read yet, is The Maiden by Kate Foster. It is about a woman who is sentenced to death for allegedly murdering her lover. However, it seems that she maybe wasn't responsible for it, and so she's been falsely accused, and it kind of follows the story of that. If I'm going to be honest, I picked it up mainly because it has a very beautiful cover, and also because it was the Scottish Book of the Month, so I got a free copy. Okay, so I have a few kind of nature-y, spiritual type books that are not fiction, but are, I think, very wonderful in their own right. First, we have a book that I've started reading over the last month or so, and it's so beautiful. It was recommended to me by my pastor, and that is Celtic Daily Prayer, Book 1, The Journey Begins. It is just this gorgeous devotional which takes you through the lives of all the original saints and missionaries that came to Scotland, and I think there's 2 different sections, so you can read through the year in 2 different devotional styles. There are so many beautiful prayers and blessings and poetry that are inspired by the beauty of God as displayed in nature. That's very much something that's a big part of my own spiritual journey and how I relate to God. So it was wonderful to find a book that is steeped in ancient traditions and wisdom on those kinds of themes. On the theme of nature, we have Tree Spotting, a simple guide to Britain's trees. Now, of course, this is maybe more British than explicitly Scottish, but it has these wonderful diagrams of all different kinds of trees, and it also has maps of where the different kinds of trees are found, and it also has all their original Latin names and a guide on how to recognise them. This is something that I really want to get better at. I feel like I want to be able to walk through a woodland and to be able to identify all the different trees and shrubs and foliage that I see, and I think that this will help me with that. And the next one is great. I love this book. I've only started flicking through it, but it's so much fun, and it is The Scottish Gardener by Suki Urquhart. It's got this beautiful picture of a waterfall on the front, and it's all about different gardens across Scotland and the history of gardens and gardening. But it's also surprisingly got these wonderful quotes, which I find absolutely hilarious, some of them, all about the character of the people who have cultivated Scotland over the centuries. And I just have to read this one because it just made me laugh. This is a Roman description of the Celts. Almost all are of tall stature, fair and ruddy, terrible for the fierceness of their eyes, fond of quarrelling and of overbearing insolence. In fact, a whole band of foreigners will be unable to cope with one of them in a fight if he calls his wife, stronger than he by far and with flashing eyes. So there you have it. I promise that we're a lot friendlier now than apparently we were back then. Okay, and finally, I've already talked about this book in a previous video, but it's still relevant because I'm still flicking through it in different seasons and looking at different sections in different seasons. That is Scottish Plant Lore and Illustrated Flora by Gregory Kinnacher. It is gorgeous. It's got these beautiful... I'll probably do a video showing you properly. It's got these beautiful botanical illustrations with different kinds of flora and fauna in Scotland, but it also has like these old recipes and folklore that's kind of been attached to all these different flora and fauna. So that is us for our Scottish books for the springtime. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I certainly have enjoyed making it. If you did like it, then you can support the channel by liking the video. And also, if you want to see more videos of this kind about slow living, simple living, connecting with nature and the wisdom of ancient ways, then do be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for future content. Do be sure to let me know in the comments what you're planning to read this spring. If you're not much of a reader and you're just watching this to support the channel, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let me know what movies or TV shows that you're planning to watch this spring. But until next time, it was lovely to have you here.